Happy Tuesday, Algebra class. We are in our final week of Unit 7, Solving Quadratic Equations. Before we begin, make sure you have your notebook and something to write with. 7.22, how do we substitute values into the quadratic formula? Last week you were introduced to the quadratic formula. Let's recap why we are using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is a strategy used to find the solutions or roots of a quadratic equation. You have learned how to find the roots graphically. You have learned how to find the roots by factoring. The quadratic formula is the third method for finding the roots. Let's take a look at the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2a. I know the formula seems complicated. However, once we go through what a, b, and c are and how to substitute into the formula, it will be very simple. The formula has the variables a, b, and c in them. The a, b, and c represent the numbers from the quadratic equation. A is the leading coefficient, b is the coefficient for the x, and c is the constant. Ready to substitute? The first step in using the quadratic formula is identifying the a, b, and c. The second step is setting up the formula with parentheses. As you can see here, I've set up the formula, but everywhere there's a variable, I've written a parentheses. The reason for this is because the variable is going to be replaced with a number. After you set up the formula with parentheses, you're going to substitute each value into the formula. Let's watch a video of Ms. Franks identifying the a, b, and c, and then substituting those values into the formula. At the end of last week, you learned about the quadratic formula, this slightly complicated looking formula that we're finally going to use over the next couple of days. So the quadratic formula is another method that we use to solve quadratic equations. The quadratic formula uses the numbers from the quadratic equation, a, b, and c. They are substituted into this formula, and after some calculations, we get the roots. So in this example, y equals to 2x squared plus 5x plus 1. A is equal to 2, b is equal to 5, and c is equal to 1. 2, 5, and 1 will be the numbers that I substitute into my quadratic formula. So when I set up my quadratic formula, everywhere I see a variable, I'm going to use a parentheses, because that parentheses is going to tell me I need to substitute a number. Step 2, we've set up the quadratic formula. So we've kept the formula exactly the same, but everywhere we see a variable, we put a parentheses. Step 3, we're going to substitute our a, b, and c into the formula. A is 2. So anywhere I see an a in the formula, I'm going to put a 2. Anywhere I see an a in the formula, I'm putting the number 2. Anywhere I see the variable b, I'm putting the number 5. And last but not least, anywhere I see the variable c, I'm putting the number 1. Done. We're going to practice identifying the a, b, and c, setting up the quadratic formula with your parentheses, and then substituting in those parentheses with the a, b, and c. And then you can stop. And tomorrow, we will learn how to simplify this formula that looks complicated, but tomorrow you're going to see it's really not. Let's take a look at another example. Miss Wilson is solving the quadratic equation 0 is equal to negative 2x squared minus 3x plus 9. The first thing Miss Wilson needs to do is identify her A, B, and C. The A is negative 2, the B is negative 3, and the C is 9. She then is going to write the formula with the parentheses and then substitute the A, B, and C. Since the B is negative, she's going to have a negative inside of the parentheses and this negative from the formula. Here she substituted the B as negative 3. Here she substituted in the A as negative 2. Here she substituted in the 9. And last but not least, she substituted in the A in the denominator. Your turn. Miss Arlack is solving the quadratic equation 0 equals to 3x squared minus 7x plus 4. What values will she substitute into the quadratic formula? Great job. She will substitute the 3 for A, the negative 7 for B, and the 4 for C. Classwork. You have two options. You can complete the 7.22 classwork, take a picture and upload it to Google Classroom, or you can get multiple texts from your algebra teachers. I think you should complete your classwork. If you need any assistance, please feel free to text, call, so that we can either get on FaceTime or Google Hangouts. You got this.